is A to Z with Mark Zinno, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, and it starts now.
Good afternoon. Welcome to A to Z here on Locked On Sports Atlanta, where today I tell you it's all in the numbers. Welcome in. We are live here on this Thursday as we get set for a big day, getting you ready for a Friday weekend and, of course, a lot of football, but also playoff baseball on the horizon. We'll get to that. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On ATL. Of course, Mark Zinno, MarkZinno. Make sure you check us out on Roku TV as well. If you got an Amazon Fire Stick, anywhere you can get Roku TV, download that app and check out Locked On Sports Atlanta every single day. And all the shows here on the Locked On Sports Network. All right, we got a lot to do today. Aaron Freeman, Locked On Falcons, is going to join us as we get set for the Falcons and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And we'll also check in on Georgia as they get set for Auburn today or this Saturday, rather, at home in Sanford Stadium. All right, I needed to start with the Braves. And as the postseason gets underway tomorrow on Friday, you'll get the four wild card games all going underway. Started Rays and Guardians at noon. Dear Lord, noon baseball. Playoff baseball at noon. And then you get Phillies Cardinals at 2 o'clock. You get Mariners Jays at 4 and Padres Mets at 8 o'clock on Friday night. You know, I heard some talk going around Atlanta Sports Radio yesterday in reference to who the Braves should want to face in the NLDS. Now, the way baseball sets it up is all jacked up. I fully admit that, as it's 2022. Why do we not reseed in every single playoffs? I think it's absolutely ridiculous, but that's a whole different conversation. Nonetheless, the Braves will get the winner of St. Louis and Philadelphia. Now, if you look objectively on the surface and you just kind of look at the standings and, you know, who scored more runs or who had a better pitching staff, all those things, you could sit there and you could tell me, well, St. Louis won more games. That's 93. They scored more runs, 772 to 747. They gave up less runs, 637 to 685. You probably don't want to face the 93-win team. You should probably take the 87-win team. Well, you're a fool. You do not want to see the Philadelphia Phillies. And the proof is in the numbers 100%. And it is absolutely it's delineating how much you'd rather face the Cardinals than the Phillies. And for my colleagues in local radio who didn't do the research, shame on you. But alas, folks, I am here to have done the research for you. Let's just look at the numbers across the board. Okay, here we go. Bottom line here is you want to see the Cardinals. Why? Let's just look at the season series offensively. In head-to-head matchups, Atlanta won the season series with Philadelphia. They won the season series with St. Louis. In the season series against Philadelphia, Atlanta averaged 4.6 runs per game. Philly averaged 4.5, right on their heels. In the season series against St. Louis, Atlanta won the series 4-3. They scored 5.2 runs per game and gave up just 3.2 runs per game. But that said, we all know that pitching is what wins in the postseason. So let's take a look at some of the pitching numbers, shall we? If we all can agree that Fried, Strider, Wright, and Morton will start at some point, right? If they go to 5 games, you know, again, you'll get your game one starter to come back in game 5. But you have to believe in some order. Fried, Strider, Wright, and Morton should all end up seeing a start. That said, if you look at Strider individually, and we'll look at Strider and Morton first. Why? Because they're simple. Strider's been virtually unhittable against everybody. The numbers are negligible against both teams. It doesn't matter. Nobody's touching the guy. We're talking about so low numbers that it's like, oh, the batting average against is 120 versus 133. Like, it's not even worth dissecting at this point. You're splitting hairs. And in fact, Charlie Morton's the exact opposite. He's been banged around by both teams this year and his entire career. The numbers are bad. He's got a 5 ERA against Philly. He's got a 7 ERA against St. Louis in his career. So there's no reason to dissect them there. You take those two guys off the table. So let's look at the other two, Fried and Wright. And both of their career stats against these teams mirror their 2022 stats against these teams. So I went with the career numbers overall. Fried versus Philadelphia in his career, 4-4. 3.74 ERA, 1.33 whip. Opposing batters are batting 261 against them, and the OPS that they're hitting against them is 768. Let's take a look at his numbers against St. Louis. 4-0, undefeated in his career. ERA, .34. His whip, .86. Batting average against 169, and OPS against 439. It's clear Fried is much better against St. Louis than he is against Philly. Why would you want your ace to go against Philly that can beat him versus St. Louis that can't? Let's look at Kyle Wright in his career against Philly, 2-3. 3.86 ERA, 1.02 whip, batting average against 1.52, and OPS 623. Now, Wright against St. Louis in his career, he's only faced him one time, and it was this year. 0-0, 0 ERA, 1 whip, batting average 200, and OPS 478. You can't make that much of that, but the numbers are there. Folks, you want no part of the Philadelphia. Like, why would you want the Philadelphia Phillies to be any part of your postseason run? There's literally no reason to bring the Philadelphia Phillies into the equation. It's a division foe. They know you the best. They've seen you the most. It becomes a coin flip scenario against the Phillies. You want to see the Cardinals. I heard yesterday. Oh, God. I don't want no part of the Pujols, Wainwright, Yadier Molina retirement tour. What? Really? Just look at the numbers, folks. Baseball's a numbers game. 162 always wins out. 162 always wins out. And if you don't think it does, well, I can't help you because you want to face the St. Louis Cardinals. They're an easier team to beat. And part of the reason why their numbers this year overall, like I talked about how many more runs they've scored versus how many runs they've given up, they play in a much worse division. Despite the fact how bad the Miami Marlins were, they only have a negative run differential of 90. Okay? So you have 3 competitive teams at the top of the NL, a competitive team in the Marlins. Yes, the Nationals were really, really bad. But guess what? The Pittsburgh Pirates and Cincinnati Reds and Chicago Cubs were all worse. They only had one real team to play around with, and that was Milwaukee, and they weren't very good at all. So St. Louis didn't have any real competition. And playing 70-some-on games against nearly half your schedule against those 4 teams means you're going to win a lot more than you lose. Don't be fooled by the Cardinals' record. They're a worse team than the Phillies, and you want no part of seeing the Phillies in the first round of, or at least the NLDS in the National League playoffs. Numbers are right there, folks. It's not hard research. You just got to do it. You just got to look for it. You absolutely want the Braves to take on the St. Louis Cardinals and not the Philadelphia Phillies. Falcons are going to take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We'll get to that in just a moment. First, a word from our friends at BetOnline.net, the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your sports betting needs. Find your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, college football, obviously NFL, all coming up this weekend. You got Major League Baseball starting their playoffs. There's great information there as well. You have NBA and NHL coming up right around the corner. You get combat sports, esports, even golf. It's all right there on BetOnline. They're the top online resource for all your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting scores, podcasts, which have a ton of information. They've got you covered. Head to BetOnline today to use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts.